All right, and thank you for tuning in to Chompin at the Bit. This is episode 12, and on this episode, we are going to look at Week 3 of the NFL, the Sunday, Monday games, as Week 3 already started on Thursday night with the Miami Dolphins beating the Jacksonville Jaguars 31-13. I was a little surprised by that result, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So, like I do every week, I will go over the 5 games I'm looking forward to watching this week, as well as the team that I feel has the most to prove this week. We'll go over my picks for my 6 games this week. Now, because I am a little late on the picks, I actually didn't get a chance to do the Thursday Night Football pick, but I did do an extra game to make up for that one. So we'll get to that at the end of the episode. But like I said at the top, week started Thursday night, Dolphins over the Jaguars. And it's like an interesting dynamic with Miami, because Fitzpatrick looked great on Thursday. And if you follow Ryan Fitzpatrick's career at any point, he will go through these stretches where he plays great, and then he'll go through stretches where he plays like an average quarterback. But with Miami, it's interesting to me because they have Tua Tagovailoa, the rookie that they got out of Alabama. And my thing that I've been looking forward to is, when exactly does Miami turn the team over to him? Because yes, you have Fitzpatrick, and Fitzpatrick's job is to kind of groom Tua, hold the position down until Tua's ready to go. And I feel like with this year, with the Dolphins not expected to, go anywhere, I think it'd be a perfect year to get, Tua some experience, let him get some of the mistakes out of him that all rookies make, let him get a little bit adjusted to the speed of the NFL game. But let's say Fitzpatrick goes on one of his runs, goes like 4 or 5 weeks playing like he did on Thursday. What do? Like, I still think no matter what, Tua has to play at some point this year. Because it'd be one thing if the Dolphins were, a divisional favorite or a threat to win the Super Bowl or something. Yeah, then you can let them sit. But Miami's still in the process of rebuilding. Tua's clearly their quarterback of the future, so you might as well start that clock as soon as you can. So I still think the bye week, whenever that is, they'd have to make the switch at that point. But it is interesting to see, like, how well Fitzpatrick can carry over his performance on Thursday night. I mean, he was using his legs, he was making great passes, and he just had a good control of that offense. But then you look at the other side, Jacksonville's been a little up and down this year. They're now 1-2. And Minshew, first couple of weeks, looked good. I mean, he definitely had his struggles on Thursday night. Now, Minshew's at kind of a crossroad of his career with Jacksonville, because if Jacksonville is as bad as many people think they're going to be, then Jacksonville has a decision to make at the end of the year. Do they continue building with Minshew? I mean, they took him middle rounds of the draft, so there's not really pressure on him to be the next franchise quarterback, but I mean, he can make that decision very hard for Jacksonville if he has a good year this year. Maybe they get a surprising win total, and by doing that, they're not in a position to get Trevor Lawrence, because Trevor Lawrence is the prize of the draft for next year. So clearly that's, a place that Jacksonville is ready to go if they completely bottom out. So they get Trevor Lawrence, and then Minshew becomes, probably a guy who plays out his rookie deal in Jacksonville. And you have him still if Lawrence isn't ready to go next year. But like I said, if Minshew, outplays, goes like out of his mind, Jacksonville's good enough, they can't get Lawrence, then maybe that changes their plans and they try to move forward with Minshew. But with, two teams that are clearly rebuilding, like which team has a better shot at surprising this year? Oddly enough, I think it might be Jacksonville. Not to say like Jacksonville's, better than Miami, but I think in that AFC South division, Jacksonville can steal. Let's say they go 3-3 in the division, which would be great for them. And then they steal, a couple of games here or there. Who knows if they turn out to be like 6-10 or 7-9. Like if Jacksonville got to 7-9 this year, that would be crazy. Because 7-9 is still mediocre, but I mean, at the beginning of this year, a lot of people wondered if Jacksonville could win a game. They've already done that, so now it's just evaluating talent, which both teams are doing, because both teams are still looking towards next year's draft to continue bringing in pieces. So hopefully, 2-3 years down the line, you're somewhat competitive within your division. But yeah, it's interesting, both teams down in Florida. Now Jacksonville, I guess, had the most recent success that year they made the AFC Championship game, but then they bottomed out after that. Miami's kind of been the cellar dweller in the AFC East for a little bit, but they've made their changes at coach, and they like their coach, Brian Flores, and you see the improvement with them. So definitely something to watch for going forward this year. But so that's what happened on Thursday night. But now we're going to look ahead to the weekend games. Well, Sunday games and Monday. It's an interesting slate of games this week. There's a lot of great matchups. And like I said in the intro, each week I pick the 5 most intriguing games to me that I definitely want to just sit down and watch. And the first game this week is, everybody's excited for this matchup, Chiefs at Ravens. That is the Monday night game, of course. With a matchup like that, it's got to be on Monday night. And I mean, for a matchup in week 3, these are arguably the 2 top teams in the AFC. Some may even say in the whole NFL. And you're getting this matchup week 3, so it's going to be Patrick Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson. Probably the quarterback matchup that's going to take the league the next 10 years. Both exciting young talents. It's going to be interesting to see, who outplays who. Because when you get 2 great quarterbacks up against each other, there's going to be that, notion that I got to outplay him, of course. I need to show that I'm better. Now, I would say, both teams are pretty talented. I think offensively, the Chiefs may have the slight edge in terms of more dangerous weapons, but that's not to say the Ravens are lacking in any way. They kind of get it done a little bit differently, where the Ravens are above average running team, but they use their running game to suck the defense in so Lamar can throw the ball over the top because they have, Hollywood Brown, who's their deep threat. The Chiefs just kind of work their way methodically down the field because they have, Travis Kelce over the middle. You have Sammy Watkins. You have Mecole Hardman, Tyreek Hill, who's their deep threat. But he's a little more than that because Hill's the type who you can get it. If you can get it to him on a slant and give him some room to operate, he'll then use his speed. And he's faster than any defensive back. But now the Chiefs do have Edwards-Helaire, the rookie running back, after Damian Williams opted out this year. So he's been an added threat because as well as he does run the ball, he is a threat in the passing game. So it's going to be interesting to see if Baltimore can slow down that Chiefs attack, and then if the Chiefs can contain Lamar Jackson. Because with Lamar Jackson, you want to keep him within the pocket. Because once he gets outside the pocket, defenses that's the worst place to find him. Because then he'll just turn on playmaker mode. He'll juke out a linebacker, and he'll dust the secondary and find his way into the end zone. But he does have Mark Andrews, who's probably his most reliable target, the tight end, but he does have Hollywood Brown to stretch the field. Second game I'm interested in, Rams at Bills. It's a matchup of two undefeated teams, two teams that come into this year with some expectations. The Bills are expected to win the AFC East, kind of take over the reign from the New England Patriots, because they have Josh Allen, their quarterback, who's looked great first couple of games. And if Josh Allen has actually taken that leap in his career, the Bills are a talented team as well. They're a team that still relies on their defense to kind of give Josh Allen a short field to work with. But Josh Allen is proving this year that he's not as erratic as he was last year. He has gotten better with his accuracy. And that may have just come with learning the game a little more, making sure his mechanics are tight, but he's looked good so far. And then the Rams, after their Super Bowl run, where they lost in the Super Bowl to the Patriots, they kind of fell off shortly after that. Last year, they were middle of the road team, made some changes. Todd Gurley was the biggest takeaway from that team, but they've come in this far. First 2 weeks look good. They look like they might be back to that Super Bowl level. So once again, week 3, this is a big matchup for both teams. If the Bills can get the win here, it'll be their first signature win for the year, because their first 2 games they beat the Jets and the Dolphins. That doesn't really tell you much, because the Jets are terrible. Miami still in transition and still in their rebuild. Rams, the Rams have, like I said, they looked good. So win over the Bills can just further the argument that maybe they are back to their Super Bowl level. The third game I do want to see would be the Green Bay Packers at New Orleans Saints. Now, if you just look at this on paper, you have Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees. That would make most football fans just jump for joy and excitement and just be ready to go. But my interest in this game is more with Drew Brees, because after that game against the Raiders last Monday night, where he just looked like he was off, And yes, I know he was missing Michael Thomas, but Drew Brees just looked like he, lost something off his fastball. Other terms, his arm just doesn't look as strong as it once was. So if Drew Brees were to have another bad game, then there may be a little bit more chirping about maybe you could bring Jameis Winston, who is their backup, who was with Tampa Bay last year. Jameis Winston does have his issues with interceptions. What you might not know is Jameis Winston actually threw for over 5,000 yards last year. One of the only quarterbacks to do it last year. So their talent's there. They do have him for 1 year. So, he's just emergency if Brees were to get hurt or if his age really starts to show, then you have a capable backup to go to. So this is kind of a game for Brees to prove that last week was just a hiccup. He's still good to go. Green Bay, on the other hand, you have Aaron Rodgers, where, a lot of people in the NFL wondered what exactly Green Bay was doing to help him, since they took a quarterback early on in the draft last year. But so far through 2 weeks, these weapons that he supposedly didn't have, he's made do with them. So it's either maybe the recent failures of the past couple of years were on Aaron Rodgers. Maybe he wasn't making the right decisions. Or maybe those weapons that people thought weren't good enough may actually be decent. So that's something to look forward to in that matchup. The fourth game I'm looking forward to are the Las Vegas Raiders at the New England Patriots. This one is mainly because the Raiders are coming off that win against the Saints. So the Raiders are looking for another signature win if they were to beat the Patriots going on the road to New England. A lot of people weren't expecting the Raiders to be a player in that division. But if you're going to tell me that in back-to-back weeks, you're going to beat the Saints at home and then go on the road and beat New England, might have to start reevaluating how we're looking at this team. Maybe this is one of those teams that we may have missed the boat on this year, and they turn out to be better than we all thought. So with the Raiders, they're coached by John Gruden. They have Josh Jacobs as their running back, and he's an every down back, talented young running back in the league. He got a little nicked up against the Saints, I believe, with a hip injury. But all indications are he's good to go for this week, so he should be out there. And then in terms of the passing game, they have Henry Ruggs, their wideout out of Alabama, who's their speed guy. But Derek Carr, the quarterback, his most reliable target is Darren Waller, the tight end out of Georgia Tech. Even though he's not your typical tight end, he's just a bigger wide receiver who can play tight end. And that is where New England's focus is going to be, is, hopefully your guys up front can somewhat contain Josh Jacobs. That way you don't have to, bring in extra, bring a safety down to stop him, because you're going to need that over-the-top help on Waller when he's running in the middle of the field. And then when you flip it, can Cam Newton continue his great play the first couple of weeks? Yes, they're 1-1, but that game against Seattle last week was a coming out party for Cam Newton, at least with New England, because he showed that he still has an arm. He showed that he's actually more accurate than I thought he was. And it's showing that he's starting to build a chemistry with, N'Keal Harry and Julian Edelman. and a couple of the other weapons for New England. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup. And, of course, you have Belichick and Gruden, two big names in the coaching circles of the NFL. So that should be fun. But, yeah, we'll see how that one goes. And then the last game that I definitely am looking forward to is Dallas Cowboys going up to Seattle to face the Seahawks. So the interest for me with this game is, it's the Cowboys who got that miraculous win last week against the Falcons. So we'll see if they continue, the momentum from that game heading up to Seattle, where it's going to be tough. Sure, they don't have the 12, which is what they call their fans there, but Russell Wilson, as I said previous episodes, I think Russell Wilson is probably the second best quarterback in the NFL. And when you watch Seattle, you'll notice that Wilson's just a winning type player. If the play breaks down, he finds a way to improvise and makes the best he can out of a terrible situation. Like you may be a linebacker bearing down on him, thinking you're gonna get the sack. He'll find a way to slip that and do the right thing, whether it's throw the ball away, live for another down, or he'll scramble, flick of the wrist, throw it deep down the field, where DK Metcalf will usually be the guy on the other end of those passes. But his favorite receiver may actually be Tyler Lockett, who's their kind of speedy, work the middle of the field type receiver. And with him, you like to give him the ball, give him some space, and let him, get some yards after the catch. And the Seahawks defense, now that they've added Jamal Adams, is definitely improved, yes. But you can still, beat them in the passing game, as Jamal Adams is one of those aggressive safeties that loves to be down in the box, fly to the ball, and make plays in the backfield. If you can get him on play action, you can definitely throw it over his head and get big plays. So that's going to be the interesting matchup, is the Seahawks offense against the Cowboys defense. Because what exactly has the Cowboys defense shown so far this year? They haven't really shown out to be that good. And I believe the last thing the Cowboys want is to get into a shootout with Seattle. So if the Cowboys can establish Ezekiel Elliott, play time of possession, have Prescott find the open man over the middle, play a little play action, and keep Russell Wilson off to the sideline, then they should be fine in this game. So those are the 5 matchups that I'm looking forward to this weekend. If you're like me, you'll definitely just be sitting around, flipping through channels, looking for each game. Or if you have Red Zone, stay glued to that, because, like I said, outside of the 5 games I picked, there are other great matchups out there. So now, as another thing that I've done, each week I look for that team that has the most to prove this week. Now for me, it's the Houston Texans. The Texans are already 0-2. Yes, their first 2 games were tough, but they go into week 3 with, a lot of questions. There's a lot of noise about their coach, Bill O'Brien, whether he should be fired or whether you just need to upgrade the talent and maybe it's not him. But based on some of their moves that they've made, there's a lot of pressure on Bill O'Brien. So if they fall to 0-3, if he is on the hot seat in terms of his job, that temperature is just going to get turned up even more. So they have the Steelers this week. And the Steelers come into this matchup with what some might say the best defensive line in the NFL, at least arguably. They have TJ Watt, who's JJ Watt's little brother. And if you don't, I mean, you have to pay attention to him because he's a guy who, if you get him with single coverage, he'll beat a tackle off the edge and cause trouble for Deshaun Watson. And at this point, Deshaun Watson is, their best offensive weapon, since Bill O'Brien did trade away DeAndre Hopkins, which that move right there put a lot of eyes on him to see if they would actually do well this year. But I mean, without Hopkins, Watson does still have, Kenny Stills, Will Fuller. Their tight end is Donald Fells, their tight end. Now they traded Hopkins for David Johnson, but David Johnson is kind of what he is at this point. He's a guy who had recent success when he was with the Cardinals, but definitely seems like he is slowing down. So, if David Johnson could turn back the clock a little bit, get the running game going, then that makes Watson's job easier to find Stills or Fuller downfield. So this is definitely a game that if they can beat the Steelers this week, go to 1-2, you can kind of breathe a little bit on the year. Because like I said, the first two games were tough. I believe they played Baltimore and Kansas City the first 2 weeks, which, I mean, anybody would lose both of those games. Because like I said, those are the two top teams in the AFC, maybe the NFL. And, once they get past this game against Pittsburgh, when you look at their schedule, they have Minnesota next week. You got Jacksonville the week after. Then you're looking at Tennessee, which will be a big divisional game for them. But, you win this one, you have to expect them to be probably the favorite against Minnesota. And then Jacksonville. So right there, if you get 3 in a row, you turn your season around, you're 3-2, and now you can kind of start over and take it off from there. So that's why I believe Texans are the team that has the most to prove. Another point, if they do lose it, you don't know what effect that's going to have on the team. They'd be 0-3. And the NFL, you can get that kind of snowball effect. 0-3 becomes 0-4. 0-4 becomes 0-5. And then that turns into guys in the locker room looking at each other, pointing the finger to see who needs to step up, who probably needs to go and all that. And that just, is just a whole other problem. So if they can get this one, they can kind of silence some of the critics so far and kind of reroute their season. So there you are. I've given you 5 games to watch. I give you the team with the most to prove. Now it's that time for me to go ahead and give you my picks for the top games I have. So here we are with my week 3 picks. And the first, just in case you are new to the pick segment, I usually pick the Thursday night football game. Like I said, I didn't get a chance to pick that one this week, but normally I would do the Thursday night game, Sunday night game, the Monday night game, as well as I'll always do the Patriot game. Like I said, big Patriots fan, originally from Boston, so gotta pick them. But now that I am in the Atlanta area, I will definitely pick the Falcons game. So I will do at least 5 games a week. So first game, I have the Falcons as a 3.5 point favorite over the Bears. I know it's been rough, Falcon fans, so far, but I do think that the Falcons get some things corrected this week and do beat the Bears. Now, the one thing is, the Bears do still have Khalil Mack. So, Matt Ryan, you're going to have to find Khalil Mack. You know, if you have to keep a running back in to chip, help out, give you some time to find, you know, Calvin Ridley or Julio Jones. You know, I think this is a game where they can put some points on the board, get their first win of the year. But I mean, that's not to say like you should sleep on the Bears or anything, because if the Falcons do come out, play sloppy, Trubisky can make enough plays to steal a win here. But I do like the Falcons in this one. Second game, I'm taking the Patriots as a 6.5-point favorite to beat the Raiders. Now, when I first looked at it, I thought 6.5 might have been a little high, but I do think the Patriots, you know, can win that game by a touchdown. And like I said, I do expect that game I think that game's going to be a game where each team's going to need to take advantage of their possessions, because I do see both teams looking to, you know, run the ball, establish the run, whether it's with Jacobs with the Raiders, and I think James White is out this week, as he did have the tragedy with his parents getting into an accident, father passing away. So he's taken the past couple of weeks and he's been out, but they still have, you know, Cam Newton's been running the ball. They have Sony Michel, Rex Burkhead. So I do believe both teams are going to establish the run. So time of possession, like you expect to see long drives in that game. But even with that, I'll take the Patriots. Now, the third game, I'm actually going with an underdog. I think the Cincinnati Bengals will get their first win of the year against the Eagles. The Eagles are a 6.5-point favorite, but I think the Bengals actually upset the Eagles this week. The fourth game I'm looking forward is now this one's a tough one for me. I went back and forth on this one, but I'm taking the Green Bay Packers over the Saints. The Saints are the 3.5-point favorite, but I think Green Bay is going to go into New Orleans. I think Drew Brees is going to continue to struggle. I'm not sure about Michael Thomas. I think he's questionable this week, but I do expect Aaron Rodgers to have all day back there to find Devontae Adams. And Devontae Adams is his main weapon, but they do have a couple of other wide receivers that he has been throwing to a lot this year. But I think the Packers will be able to put up some points. And I expect, like I said, Drew Brees' struggles to continue. Like, I'm not sure if he'll look as bad to the point where it's like, okay, we got to get Jameis Winston ready. But I think he'll still perform good enough to at least warrant starting next week. Like I said, give me Green Bay in that one. Okay, the next game is another one I went back and forth on, but I'm going to take the Ravens as a 3.5-point favorite over the Chiefs. I'm expecting this one to probably be a, game of the year type nominee by the end of the year, but I think the fact of the Ravens being at home, I can see this game, going back and forth. Ravens getting the ball last, driving down for a score, and that's how they end up beating the Chiefs. Just simply that the Chiefs didn't have the ball last. But it's still going to be a great game. I would be shocked if this was a blowout either way. I guess I'm taking the Ravens. I wouldn't be shocked if the Chiefs won by, a late field goal or something, because they do have a definite weapon in Butker, their field goal kicker. He has 60 yards in him easy. So if it does come late, they can kind of get the ball and get within like a 55 to 60 yard range, Butker can make those. He's actually pretty accurate from that distance. So, yeah, that's going to be an interesting game to watch. Then my last game, I have the Seahawks as a 3.5 point favorite to beat the Cowboys. This one's simple. I just think Russell Wilson's going to continue his great play so far this season. I kind of think he's going to torch that Cowboys defense. So I know it's just a 3.5 point line. I'm kind of seeing double-digit win on this one. Yeah, I just think, like I said, Russell Wilson's going to be too much for them. Now the Cowboys' best bet is that Prescott kind of raises up his level, matches Russell Wilson throw for throw, and maybe it turns into like Chiefs Ravens, where the team with the ball last has the chance to win it. But I just think Russell Wilson is just playing too well so far, and he's just gonna get it done. So there you have it. To recap my picks, I have Falcons over the Bears, Patriots over the Raiders, Bengals upsetting the Eagles, the Packers beating the Saints, Ravens beating the Chiefs, and Seahawks beating the Cowboys. So, once again, I'm 4-7 right now on the year. I know that's not good. And as I said, I'm shooting for 60% at least by the end of the year. But we'll see how I do this week. So it'll definitely be probably Tuesday when I record an episode on Tuesday. We'll recap my picks, see how well I did. But yeah, I guess that's a good spot for this episode. But I guess just to look ahead, I'll look ahead at college football in the next episode, as the SEC finally got started this weekend. We've had the ACC in play. They got started, I believe it was last week or the week before. And at this point, all of the power conferences have made agreements to actually start playing football at some point in the fall here. I believe the Big Ten is going to start next month, as well as the Pac-12. It's crazy. I mean, 2020 has been an odd year in terms of sports, so college football is no different. But in terms of college football, I will be looking at, does college football actually need like a single commissioner to kind of, govern all the conferences and everything? Because right now each conference is on their own. So look forward to that in the next episode. And also, quick note, I forgot I didn't say this in the beginning, but have to give congratulations to the Los Angeles Lakers, as they did clinch a spot in the NBA Finals tonight, where they won their series against the Nuggets 4-1. So an episode down the road, we'll look ahead to the NBA Finals, depending on when the Celtics Heat series ends. Then we'll decide. Then at that point, I'll let you know when we'll do a finals preview. But yeah, that's all I got for this episode. If you're new here, you definitely like what you heard, get a like, follow, subscribe. You can find the podcast on any platform that you listen to. And if you're returning, you know the whole thing. I appreciate you listening, and hope you're safe. But hope you enjoyed this weekend's slate of NFL games. And I'll definitely catch you on the next episode. All right.